Okay, this is interactive television. Welcome to the future. Conan O'Brien, kiss my ass. When you're in the movie, you just paid all this money. Why are you texting? Who do you gotta talk to? Is the movie that bad?
Just shut up and watch the movie.
Seriously, even if it sucks, just watch the movie.
I beg you.
What it looked like to me was Friday the 13th set in a cabin in the woods.
It was a mansion.
Yeah, it was a mansion, Dave.
A mansion in the woods.
A Tudor style mansion, if you want to get really serious.
Yeah, it was a Tudor mansion.
What are you, architects?
Let's talk about some news this week.
Okay. So my choice of story this week, because I am a gigantic, ginormous Star Wars fan, as you can tell from these magazines I collected as a child. My story today is about the prospective casting of Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Wars Episode 7.
They have denied the rumors that Bryan Cranston is playing Lex Luthor in the Batman vs. Superman movie. I believe that this is them, this is the studio just going, it's not true, because I believe they're waiting for the end of Breaking Bad and then they confirm it. I could be wrong.
You're gonna see us play show and tell.
My brothers and I played with something called 2XL. So what this thing was basically an 8-track player and talks to you in this kind of voice.
This is what I like to consider a landmark in the history of Batman. This is the death in a family where they killed Robin.
The smartest guy on the show.
It seems like we're going to probably establish me as the meme reviewer.
I will sell you this woman. What's your name again, Adriana? Full name.
You want the full name with the accent and everything?
Do it in,
I'll give it to you.
do it
Ready
in
for this?
Spanish
Ready for
accent.
this? Okay, here we go.
We don't have that much
My
time.
name is Adriana Catalina Amaya.
And we just got 20 more viewers.
I'm sure you want to do show and tell now. All I got was a green piece of construction paper.
Oh boy.
You know, and I'm sure this is not exciting. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make me disappear or anything interesting like that. Oh, hey, look, I lost some weight.
My father used to take me to see a lot of films that a child should never see. I saw Scarface. I was about 5 years old when I saw Scarface in the theaters. And I was the only child who knew a lot about cocaine as a kid.
As you mentioned, Molly Ringwald is in this. This is a very young Molly Ringwald, still quite attractive if you like 16-year-old girls, I guess. What? There's also that was for Jerry. We watched this movie as much as we watched Star Wars when we were kids.
It's a great movie.
What was wrong with you two?
I don't know. I'll take my shirt off. I don't care. We're here to entertain the people. Whether it's 1 or 1 million, I'll do whatever the hell they say. I'm not going to take a crap on this desk unless you got a PayPal.
You're scaring Matt, the technical director, Jerry.
Matt's getting
He's sighing. He's sighing.
Dave, take your goddamn shirt off.
Yeah, Dave, take your shirt off.
Dave.
There's nothing really more common on the internet than shirtless men talking about SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's not fitting over your head.
Oh, boy.
Let's see if
Been here before.
He's like the biggest reject wrestler.
We're coming to your town, and I'm going to tell you what, C-3PO, we got beef.
If you've got good enough actors, not just comedians,
You can do it. Stationary.
you can trap them somewhere, and it's going to be a good movie.
Everyone's eyes in movies nowadays are so blue. Thank you, digital technology.
There was a time before the digital age when this existed. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is a perfect movie.
William Shatner's probably his strongest as Captain Kirk in this one. I know we all make fun of William Shatner. Why wouldn't you?
Star Trek II is showing a man aging. Why couldn't Crystal Skull show that same level of humanity of a man aging? That's an action hero. I'm not going to take my shirt off while I'm talking about atomic genocide.
Are you not entertained?
So, we happen to have Sean Connery in the building.
Well, he's a little upset about all the things you said about his movie, Dave.
If my grandmother said, "Do you want to see my boobs?" I'd say, "Yeah, Grandma. God bless. Whip them big old tickies out." What?
That kind of helps me to kind of stay at home and doing my thing. And it allows us to do whatever genre we want. We're starting a pretty heavy drama in about a month and a half, and we're finishing up our 2 mockumentaries about porn stars. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of different things and kind of, yeah. That's my man's like, yes. The first one's called Rise of the Beaver Slayer. And then horror comedy mockumentary slasher film called The Porn Movie Massacre. So we're pretty excited about both of those. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I grew up on Say Anything, movies like that. So that's kind of where my influences are.
God bless.
Now, I remember reading about your latest film, 3 References, has had the most extensive festival run of the movies that you've done. Is that the case?
Definitely, as far as profile, we've been, we screened Caesar and Otto at the film festival that we ran last year.
That's right, Scarlet Waters.
Because I'm all over the place, and I'm seeing these really good films that are not getting played anywhere, particularly not in a film-friendly town like Austin. We had submitted 6, I think, films to the Austin Film Festival, which is a top 10 in the country, and nothing ever happened. And so we kind of realize that we'll continue to submit to Sundance, but not really counting on it. And then we got in this last year, and it was the week after our thing, so we were for 3 weeks because it was jumping through our rear ends. But 3 references, it connected with the judges. You never know what will. It's a story about a guy that he's kind of a dog, and he falls in love with this chick, and she makes him get 3 letters of recommendation from former girlfriends, and they make him jump through all kinds of hoops. I mean, a guy gets peed on in the first 37 seconds of the movie. So
that is record-breaking for urination. No film was ever opened that way. Film that usually happens later into the film.
Later in the film, yeah. So, but it seemed to connect with that audience, and it was cool, Dave. Like, it was a festival that we were on the same bill as the Coen Brothers in 12 Years a Slave, but we weren't treated like we were the wicked stepchildren to those movies. I mean, we got all the same access they did. Interacted with a lot of those guys, and then there was a line around the building for our film. People got turned away, and I feel bad for people that got turned away, but that was pretty cool for me. So
now I'm finally getting the first good look at your room. You got Michael Myers behind you. You got Stripes.
Ghostbusters posters?
Oh yeah, I've got some illustrated Ghostbusters back here. Let me just go ahead and give you guys a tour.
Yes.
We've got the illustrated Ghostbusters down here. We've got Mike and Ghostface, and then just
Turkey Day, your film.
Some of my stuff is up there, and then of course, I got to have.
Does Taste Pop Bank?
Oh, you've just become one of my favorite guests of all time, James. I liked you to begin with, but now I really like you. This is great. So, now you have Disassociationville? What is the title of the new film that you're currently in production on?
Disassociationville. We're in the middle of crowdfunding for it now, plug. And, we just hit... we actually have already hit our goal. We hit our goal in about 26 days. We raised $10,000 for it. And it's going to be a different thing. And it's kind of it's about a guy that when he graduates high school, he bounces, and then he goes back home 7 years later when his mom dies and kind of dealing with all the stuff that he kind of just walked out on. So it'll be a different film than what you've seen from us for sure, and something different than anything we've done in a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a tremendous variety from what I've seen already. One of the interesting things that you do is whereas I'm sort of on my feature films, I'm just the writer, the director. You literally sort of have assembled a team where you'll allot a short film to another part of your team, and they'll direct that. You have a real you've established a real team down in the heart of where you live, which is something that I don't usually see. It's usually, I think I'm more the norm for that, but you've assembled a crew that you use for everything.
And honestly, it all started with I don't think I'm smart enough to know all the right answers. Is what it was. And
well, you also don't have the time because you have a lot of projects and you don't necessarily have the time to do everything.
It does help. And you mentioned the short thing where, I actually don't direct short films anymore, but we still do 2 or 3 as a company. And part of that is a lot of the people that work for us have kind of bought in and believe in what our model is. And so if I can't necessarily give them a lot of financial reward, I can help their career grow. I can help them, if they want to learn to direct, I can teach them. And it makes them better at everything, and then they never know what opportunities they're going to get. And we've had an actress who became a director who got a commercial gig, directing the commercial.
Are you talking about Teresa Kelton?
Yeah, Teresa Kelton.
Former Nerd News Girl on our Back to the Future episode?
Former Back to the Future Nerd News Girl, yeah. She borrowed my shirt for that. You're welcome.
That was great. So we're going to now delve into our headlines. Chris, thank you so much for calling in. Where can people find you? What are your websites so that people can go and track you down?
TwitchyDolphin.com.
Twitchy Dolphin?
Twitchy Dolphin?
TwitchyDolphin.com, yeah.
I remember that.
Twitchy like it vibrates, and dolphin is the ocean-going mammal, and they can find everything from there.
Thank you so much for Skyping in, and I'll be...
Have a good night.
Hey, you too, buddy. So now, Peppercorn Montgomery, you have headlines for us tonight.
All right. Give me headlines, Tim. Go ahead. Here are the headlines for March 12th, 2014.
Our first news story tonight is the impressive opening box office numbers for 300 Rise of the Empire. 300 Rise of the Empire is the follow-up to the 2007 film 300, clever name, directed by Zack Snyder. The strong box office numbers go to prove that there's still an audience out there for movies about sweaty, muscular men in nothing but Speedos and capes fighting in slow motion. Despite receiving some pretty negative reviews, the new film managed to pull in over $45 million. That's domestic. It got like 150 overseas. Overseas, yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. Much less than the original, but still better than a lot of other CGI-heavy action films, including Elysium, Oblivion, Riddick, The Lone Ranger, Pacific Rim, and G.I. Joe Retaliation. But with all that being said, it is a strong start to the spring movie season. Any comments?
I'm not surprised that it did the money that it did. That first movie was hugely successful.
Yeah.
It did a lot of money. I mean, that was one of those movies that the reason I got so sick of it was because nobody would shut up about it after a while. Like, I was like, this movie's really cool, and everybody, like, the friends that I went to college with had, like, the soundtrack, and they play it constantly, and I was just like, stop this. Like, I remember it was
a little bit of a, yeah.
It was still a good film, but I remember I took a stand at one point and just said, like, I like Sin City better. Because it was a good film, and it was actually I think it's actually page for page the comic book.
It is. It's a pretty good.
I don't think they took anything out of that film, and that's kind of why I give it praise, because they just it's trusting the source material, and it is Frank Miller.
There's a few things that are definitely movie influenced that are changed from the comic book, but most of it is pretty true to the comic book, the original. The new one, critics didn't care for it much, and I personally, when I saw the trailer, had no real interest in seeing it.
I knew I'd see it eventually. I didn't put it to you like
that. I mean, I'll get around to seeing it.
Okay, so Peppercorn, you have not seen it yet, but you will see it in time. Now,
probably
the question is, how much of an influence on this film did Zack Snyder have? Because I know he's your favorite director.
I think he just produced it, didn't he?
I think he just has a.
He's wrapped up with Batman Superman right now, so I don't picture much.
But I mean, yeah. So he was on to bigger and better things. Although this is still $110 million budgeted movie.
It still did well.
One of my Facebook friends, who's always posting pictures of himself in his underwear, was one of the muscular extras in the background.
And this one or the last one?
So it's one of those guys that stands up against a green screen. Is like, walk from right to left and look muscular. Because there's so much green screen in these movies.
Oh yeah, the whole thing. When
green screen is such a cheap process.
It lends itself to the artwork of Frank Miller.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem. I'm one of those people that thinks like maybe CGI has become a bit too much. But when you try to adapt something, and granted, he never wrote a sequel to 300.
No.
But the point of doing the CGI is Frank Miller's art is it just lends itself so well. Like I thought it worked well for 300 and Sin City. The fact that they did green screen, because you couldn't have pulled it off otherwise.
And Timmy Packer in chat room, yes, Zack Snyder directed the first one. I think that was one of the precursors to him doing Man of Steel.
Actually, it was a precursor to him doing Watchmen.
Yeah.
He did this.
Which one came out? Okay, yeah, I'm getting chronology.
The original 300 got him the job on Watchmen. And actually, the original 300 was one of the very few Zack Snyder films that
that you don't hate.
That I don't hate. No, I enjoy it. Despite the fact that the first time I did not like Watchmen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to...
Watchmen is a whole different episode that we'll have to delve into one day.
No, you don't. It sucks. Enough said.
Okay.
There are people who would die hard defend it. But let's move on to story 2, unless you guys want anything else
bring
to
on
say.
story 2.
Okay. Story number 2. Jason Sudeikis, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, has been cast in the title role of the upcoming Fletch reboot. For those of you who are not familiar with the original Fletch, was an action comedy from 1985. Action's a little strong. But action comedies from 1985 starring Chevy Chase. The original was a huge hit in its day for Chevy Chase. There was also a very forgettable sequel that was made, but most copies of that film was dumped into a volcano.
I forgot about
Thankfully.
That too.
A reboot has long wallowed in development hell. Several writers, directors, and actors have been attached to the project, including Zach Braff, Kevin Smith, Jason Lee, and others. Yep. The current working title is Fletch 1. W-O-N, Fletch 1, and is another in a long list of remakes and reboots to come out over the past decade. Is Hollywood completely devoid of original ideas?
Yes, next topic.
Is this a prequel or a sequel?
This is a reboot.
But at the same time, Fletch 1 was the name of a follow-up book to the original, to my understanding, so it's a sort of sequel in its own way.
Did you ever read any of the other scripts?
The other script?
I've read Kevin Smith's script.
I didn't read Kevin.
That was a prequel. That was supposed to be the young...
That I heard about.
That was young
I heard,
Fletch. Wasn't bad.
And he wanted Jason Lee to play.
He was James. He signed and attached to it at one point.
Right.
And it was one of those.
That's why I say. I mean, this film.
It is one of the most developmental hell films.
Yeah.
I want to say
it's almost as bad as Spider-Man was.
Ghostbusters 3. It's going to be up there with
I guarantee we'll see Ghostbusters 3 in 5 years now. So I'll guarantee it at this point.
So, what does everybody think of the casting? Hey, that picture's a little premature there, Matt.
You ruined the surprise.
Daredevil?
What do you? No, that's a picture of Jason Sudeikis as the Flash. So now Sudeikis as Fletch. What do you think of that? I think that he's the most average comic actor ever. He's funny. He doesn't knock me out. He doesn't make me upset. He's there.
He's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not hysterical, and he's not a brilliant actor. He's just.
I think he's actually. I just watched that movie, We're the Millers.
Yeah, it's a great film, but he's funny in it.
That was a surprise hit.
I think it has much to do with the films he's funny. He's funny himself in really funny movies. Horrible Bosses.
Oh yeah, Horrible Bosses is another one. He does this reoccurring. When he was on SNL, he used to do this reoccurring sketch, and I very rarely watch SNL anymore. I watched it when he was on it because I thought he was funny, but he had this sketch that he did called Two A-Holes. Two A-holes go by a Christmas tree, and it was just them being jerks to somebody. Like, they go by a Christmas tree, and he just wasn't paying attention to
Oh, right. He did it with Kristen Wiig?
It was him and Kristen Wiig, and all they did was, it's like, what kind of tree do you want? I want a big one. How big? That big. Hey, got a mini tree, man? And he's like, no, we don't have any mini trees. And he's like, just would make up stuff and ignore these people and just make them feel like jerks. So, I mean, I think he's funny. I don't think it's so much about the casting of him. I think the script is going to suck to this. So I'm going to go on a limb and say that this script is not going to be good because it's not. I'd give it credit if it was a prequel. I'd give it credit. All right, I'd give it a little bit of credit. I'd even say it's a sequel, but it's just a reboot. It's just the first Fletch movie was fine.
But so many people haven't seen the first Fletch movie.
So go
at this
rent
point.
it. Oh, I'm sorry,
but
Netflix
they won't. But they won't. So it'll be like a new movie to them, and it has some name recognition.
Right.
So, but
are you condoning this? Like remaking a movie like Fletch, though? I mean, I'm not. I just take a stand on movies like that just don't need to be remade. Like, do you really think Fletch needed to get remade?
There's a lot of movies.
If someone done Dave Campfield went to remake a movie, what would the first movie you say be?
If I had to remake a film? If I had to remake a film?
Would you say Fletch? Would that be the first movie that comes to mind?
It's all marketing.
It's all marketing.
What's going to sell?
That one right.
What's going to sell tickets? And they think it's a marketable idea. It almost doesn't matter if it's anything beyond that. So
it's a known film, but I mean, it's not.
50-50 thing now, though.
Yeah, but I think it's a known film, but it's not. I mean, anyone call James O'Connor. I bet he hasn't seen Fletch.
He should too. He'd probably like it.
To those at home, James O'Connor is some dude that these guys.
He's our friend who hasn't seen any movies. He represents all people under 25 who've seen nothing.
Whenever we're referring to people under 25,
they're James
O'Connor. Mention his name. So when we move on to the top news story, which I already know the subject of.
All right, number 3 or number 1, depending on which direction you're going. The first full-body photo of Grant Gustafson as the Flash has hit the web. For those of you who are not familiar with Grant Gustafson, and I imagine you're not, Grant recently made a string of guest appearances on the CW show Arrow, playing the role of Barry Allen. All of this was used to set up an eventual Flash spin-off series for the CW. The CW and DC Comics are hoping to build off the recent ratings and critical success that has come from the series Arrow by rolling out a Flash series that will exist in the same universe, setting up plenty of opportunities for crossovers and possible future DC Comics series. The most important question that all of this brings up is, will Mark Hamill be reprising the role of the Trickster? I guess we'll have to wait to find that one out.
Well, let me ask you, is it, Joe, you probably know this the best of everybody at this table. Is there, I'm imagining that the Flash and Green Arrow are going to find their ways into the Justice League movie that I'm...
Oh, they stole Tim's idea. I'm going to tell you this right now. We were in Tim's house. This is a great quick story. We were in Tim's house, and this is before Arrow had been on the TV. But nothing else, and they had just announced they hadn't even announced the Justice League movie yet, but we all knew it was going to happen.
Right.
We were just talking like how we'd do this, and Tim basically just laid out his plan of, it was a little different, but he said they need to use TV shows to integrate characters because a lot of these characters, they will not hold the film. But if you use TV shows, then you can integrate them in the movie. Yeah. You won't have to do 5 or 6 different films.
You can
This is exactly what they're doing.
You can establish characters with backstories and all that jazz, and that way, when you get to a Justice League movie, you don't have to spend all the time learning who this person is and what their backstory is, and it's sort of I would love if that was the eventual idea, that these two series would lead into the DC universe of films. I don't think it's going to happen, because the way Warner Brothers, which of course owns DC Comics and all those films and stuff like, the TV division is so completely separate from the movie division. I think that maybe, hopefully, if Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. intertwines with the movies, and it's starting to actually do that.
They did it with Thor.
Yeah.
You know.
I think if that sort of works out, that could lead to DC Comics trying, basically taking it the other direction and letting their TV series lead to successful movies.
But why not? I mean, the ratings per hour are great. I've seen it. I like the show a lot.
Oh, I love it.
I think it's an amazing. I think it's
really well made.
It's really well made. It's very true to the character. I like the guy that plays Oliver Queen.
Yeah.
You know, I like the costume. They had so many great villains on there. I got to see Slade Wilson. I finally got to see Deathstroke done justice. I don't care what anybody says. What they did to him in Smallville was ridiculous. He looked like fearless leader from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, that was.
And it was just not good.
You watched all of Smallville?
No, I didn't watch all of Smallville. I watched the first two seasons.
Okay.
I watched the first two seasons, and all of my friends, particularly one friend, was like, "This is the greatest. This show's great. It's deep." And I'm like, "It's still." I
watched it, but it was not.
But the thing's, like, it was amazing to find out, like, Smallville ran 8-9 seasons.
It ran 10. That's my argument.
No, it was 10. It
was 10 seasons, and I'm like. And just the episodes that they did in that show were ridiculous. Like they did, and the Justice League episode was cool, but they did an not Apocalypse. They did a
Dark Side
episode.
Well, the finale.
Yeah, but they also did a the guy who killed Superman.
Doomsday.
They did a Doomsday episode, and I'm like, you know. But now it's
they made it work for a WB/CW TV show as best they could. But you know, for us diehard comic book fans, we were always going to be left wanting in that situation.
It just but I like Arrow to me is the DC TV show. It's like the closest thing. I always said this is the closest thing I'm going to get to a live action Batman TV show. You know,
we'll see what happens.
I mean, about Batman.
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe Gotham will set the seeds, and maybe you'll get something like that.
But I think that as far as the Flash stuff goes, I like the pictures, and I think it's going to work.
Matt, my brother in the control room, actually, why don't we swing it over? Why don't we go over to commercial? So when we come back, we're going to go fresh into Rocky, and we're going to begin the discussion of the 6 films. Some might say 5 films because they disregard one of them.
Even the franchise disregarded
the second one.
So let's come on. When we come on back, we're going to get into Rocky 1, 2, 3, and beyond.
InRevio.com.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or the flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
So I was telling him it was really more of a supper club, and
Welcome back,
That's what I
everybody. Well, so now we're going to delve into the heart of this program, Rocky.
Nice picture,
And
man.
hello to everybody in the chat room right there. Once again, Timmy Packer, Schnooky Dumplings, something or other. You can't see, and obviously lovely. Someone very lovely. So now, this series, as I said in the beginning, is not really so identified with being a nerd franchise. But my feeling is, as a kid who never really played, yeah, okay. This is true. Yeah, we can say that Mickey was the Penguin in the Batman.
No, we're reaching
TV
on that
series.
one. Let's just talk about the movie.
All right, so, I was never really a sports fan as I was growing up because I couldn't play sports, I couldn't follow them, but these movies I had a connection because Rocky really gives it a voice to the outsider. And what I'm amazed at is just the story of how it got made was as much of an underdog story as the film itself was. Because here's Stallone, which was a more or less an out-of-working actor in L.A. who was going on a series of different auditions and playing thugs in movies like, Bananas and Prisoners of Second Avenue and Death Race 2000 and obviously Lords of Flatbush. He was not getting big roles in films with very rare exceptions. He was on an audition for Irwin Winkler, I believe, and he managed to say in this, that he managed to convince them to read a script. And I'm like, all right, we'll read a script, we'll humor you. And then they liked his work so much. I think the first thing that he presented to them was Paradise Alley. And they said, what else you got? Stallone had just watched a fight where somebody who was under the radar, not a known boxer, literally knocked Cassius Clay off his feet a little bit. And that was sort of the genesis of the story. He had this knowledge of boxing.
You went all around to him.
Yeah. And he's a world traveler. Stallone really had this interesting story. They gave him this opportunity, but the studio that big said that we'll only make this $1 million if you don't get a star, if you don't have a star in the lead role. The studio said, look at Lords of Flatbush, watch Stallone. The studio watched Lords of Flatbush and thought they meant a different actor, and said, okay, great, you can cast him. And that's how Stallone wound up in the leading role of this film. Now, the surprising thing is John J. Avildsen, the director that was chosen to take on the film, his previous film was named Joe, which might have been respected in his time, but when I watched it again, I don't understand why they would have thought of him as the director of this film. Have you guys seen Joe, the previous John Avildsen film that he did to Rocky? He went on to, it was Peter Boyle. It was like a film that dealt with.
I never saw it.
It was a film that dealt with racism, and he wasn't a sports guy either, which I think is a good thing. Like it's good to get people who are outside the comfort zone of the content of the film. That way, it appeals to more people. By having a director like Avildsen, he was able to focus on really the characters and bring in all the strains of the script. And other than Karate Kid, I can't think of any other film that has had the same resonance out of his 30-film plus career, as a director. So all of the elements came together in just the right way. A young actor who's so passionate to prove himself, who was, living almost in squalor at certain points, putting every bit of his heart and soul into this story of an outsider who he felt like. And in turn, we all identified with it as I think as film goers. And
That's a great decal behind us.
Well, you see this image behind us, we are very careful with the images that we put on behind us because we want to make sure that we're not involved in any kind of copyright infringement. So that's why you have something so simple. Yeah, well, come on, guys. There we go.
Well, if I sit over here, then I'm all the way.
So I love the
Dolly in on Dave.
He does it just to mess with me. I know he does. Because he hates the way I sit.
How can you hate the way Joe sits?
Because I sit like a slob.
Slob?
Yeah, I have scoliosis.
You should see him eat. I'm sorry, that's not on topic.
So
I eat like a donkey.
So regarding this film, it's what amazes me somewhat is not just the cast, because the cast is terrific. It's as well cast as a film as I can think of, but also the fine details that they have to characters. You relate to so many of these people. Like Paulie is pretty much the worst of our own characteristics in the people we know. We probably all have known people like Paulie. There's a scene that I swear. What?
Nothing.
There's a scene where he's trying to suggest himself as the coach. I swear it's something my father would have said, growing up, if you're gonna need it, you're getting bigger now, Rock. You're gonna need a manager. No, that's okay, Mick. That's okay, Paulie. I don't need a manager. No, but I'm just saying this is gonna be rough. You're gonna need a manager. I don't need a manager. That's great. This place stinks around here. And he gets up and he hits something and he throws something over, and it is so real, and I think there's such a connection between these down and out people and the rest of us, and just the film. Regardless if Rocky was playing golf or whatever, you're going to follow this character.
I don't think I'd follow him in golf.
All right, well, a character that's interesting, probably, you're likely to. So, guys, your thoughts on the original installment?
I haven't seen it. Oh no, Rocky. Yes, no. The original movie is a fantastic film. It's a perfect example of the nice little film that could, where everything just came together very nicely. And it, what do you call it? And it's something I've said before that speaking of sports films, that and most importantly, boxing in film just always works. There's something about the sport of boxing, and I think it's the idea of the lone gladiator standing up by himself, and despite having the people in his corner and everything else like that, it just lends itself so beautifully to film. I mean, there's a long litany of just fantastic films based on the sport of boxing, about boxers. I mean, just recently, you can talk about films like The Fighter or $1 Million Baby, and you can even go back and talk about older films like Requiem for a Heavyweight, Raging Bull, of course, and Rocky. I mean, this is Stallone at his absolute best.
Because you identify. That's probably the big thing about the movie is I think why it did so well is because anybody walking on the street going in to watch this movie would be like, I know what this guy's going through. I feel his plight. I feel, and one of my favorite parts of the movie is when he's talking. I think he's talking to Adrian, and he says like, I'm not going to beat Apollo. I know I can't do that. I'm not good enough to beat him. All I want to do is I just want to go 12 rounds. Nobody's done that before. That I know I can do.
Right.
And it's just like, he just wants to, it's not even proven to the world, he's just proven it to himself that I can do that, I'm good enough. And I think we all have that need inside of us to be like, absolutely. I am good enough to do this.
Right. So. To face the unclimbable mountain, the opponent who can't be beaten, that whole thing. And just to basically go, toe-to-toe against, all of life's obstacles. But the way, to talk about the way the movie is made and stuff like this. I mean, the casting is fantastic. The actors that they surrounded Stallone with, it was just fantastic casting. From, Apollo Creed and stuff like this. Burgess Meredith as Mickey and
Adrian, fantastic. I can't.
Talia Shire.
Talia Shire.
Did you know that Talia Shire is Francis Ford Coppola's sister?
I do now.
Yes.
And Jason Schwartzman's mother?
Yes.
Did not know that. No.
Yeah.
Really?
Which would also make her Sofia Coppola's aunt. I figured that out myself.
But I think
which is how she gets in these movies.
I mean, Rocky, I put on a 100 list of films to watch. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It is an American classic. It goes right up there. It's an American classic. I really challenge anybody to sit there and watch it and be like, and say, well, I hate this film. Like, I feel like it's impossible to hate. It's just.
I mean, I doubt. I'm sure you could find someone on the earth who doesn't like it.
Well,
because they do such a fantastic job of creating the world of Philadelphia, the dirty streets of Philadelphia, and sort of that small apartment.
Because they were probably shooting in the right places.
That was probably actually Sylvester Stallone's apartment.
Do you know, this is really an interesting example of how limitations work in your favor, because the budget of the film got cut and they had to make certain accommodations. Like when Rocky and Adrian are skating, it was supposed to be a big scene amongst a bunch of other skaters. They couldn't afford the extras, so they rented the space, and the scene was rewritten so that Rocky pays off the guy to let them skate when there's nobody else around. And that scene becomes so much more intimate and interesting because the budget kind of gave them forced them to be more creative, and in the long term, helps the film. That's why, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, the best of the series. The film went on to win Best Picture. Nominated for
best screenplay too. Or it got nominated for
it was nominated for screenplay. It was nominated for actor. I think it had 10 nominations.
Yeah,
and you even think of the score. I mean, even the score was done down on the absolute cheap. If it was a bigger budget film, you probably would have gotten a more.
Score is synonymous now. I just saw a commercial that uses the Rocky theme.
Yeah. To this day.
It might be the only good thing to ever come out of Philadelphia.
Definitely not the Eagles. No, I'll take that. I side with Jim on that one.
So, we're a little bit short on time, so I want to delve into where the series went after that with Rocky 2.
On the road.
And what's interesting is that Allison wasn't available to return to the director's chair, whether that's what they say now or whether it's true. Or did Stallone muscle his way into the position? Because keep in mind, Stallone overnight, and he would, went from somebody completely unknown to a megastar. And I have a feeling that he might have muscled his way into that position, and because he had directed a film called Paradise Alley. If you haven't seen Paradise Alley, wow, was that a bad film? Stallone's directorial debut. If you ever wondered what Rocky would seem like if he was a 9-year-old who's on a sugar high, watch Paradise Alley. Because he's like doing this. I have no idea how it went so disastrously wrong. So how you go from Best Picture to one of the worst pictures of the year, but he did.
Because he didn't have a director to tell him not to do things.
But he still rose to the occasion when it came time to
filter.
Right. When it came time to
Marcellus too. It was his first big movie that he directed.
Right, right, but he definitely learned a lot from that experience. Before I forget, I got to really sing the praises of Carl Weathers as such a perfectly cast antagonist.
He's not an antagonist.
Well,
he's not. I hate when
he's not like Clubber Lang in the sense.
No,
he's not the bad guy.
This is the only movie where Rocky. He was just something. He was the perfect foil. He was Rocky was the big flashy boxer. Rocky was just the average thing. I don't think he's necessarily an antagonist.
Well, an antagonist. Because an antagonist is going against it here. Just by the definition, he's not a villain, but he's the antagonist.
That would be a fair way to put it.
All right, you're right.
But as opposed to the way the people he end up boxing become sort of
the bad guy,
the bad guys.
Yeah.
But for a guy who started off as a football player, Carl Weathers is an amazingly good actor. I can't imagine anybody else, white playing the character like that.
No, Carl Weathers he had this innate ability to. Like those scenes where he was picking out when he picks out Rocky, he finds figures out. The dialogue sounds so genuine coming out of his mouth. It sounds like he's coming to the conclusion. It sounds like it's just from an actor's standpoint, you believe what he's saying.
Did you hear that great story that he says about how he got the part? He went in for this.
Casting agent.
Stallone was reading opposite of him in the audition. Carl Weathers didn't know who Stallone was, and he was reading his lines, and he wasn't getting much reaction from the director or anybody in the room. And he's like, "Well, if you pit me opposite a real actor, I'd be able to do this." Meaning that Stallone, in his estimation, wasn't a real actor. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, this guy is going to be
the Expendables. Or that came later.
I like Expendables.
It was, but let's not call that an acting tour.
Oh, God, no.
How do you feel Rocky 2 fits into the pantheon of the series?
Well, for me, it's always like the first movie was about going the distance. The second movie was about going the distance and actually, and like you get to the top of the mountain and you're there. You finally made it.
The first part of Rocky 2 sort of just languishes on there for me. When they're doing when he's got his money and when he's doing, it's just like, all I'm waiting for is to get back for the rematch. Get back to, the training, the preparing, the, trying again, the big match. From that point on, it feels like the perfect continuation of the first one. But them doing the, him shooting the commercials and all that stuff is kind of funny and stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's all right. Can we move along? Moving along.
Okay, this is true. The pacing of the film, I've just got to bring this up. Snooky Dumplings, if that's your name again, why are you being so mean to Joe in the chat room? Joe's a nice guy. He only sometimes.
No, he's not. No, I'm really not.
Joe's
I condone everything
on
he's
air.
saying.
On air is sometimes comes up a little.
He did defend my transvestite-like figure, though.
Okay.
So that's good.
Joe's a sweetheart, and I don't know why you're picking on him.
I'm not picking on him.
This happens every time.
No. I said the person in the chat room seems to be.
I just was telling him how I found Jesus, and I understand where he's coming from, and physical violence is
now last week Joe was aggressive, but it's it's part of the show. It's part of the character. It's not he's a great guy. So Rocky 2, Joe. So you're saying that it's a slow burn. I feel like 2 and 6 to me, the last Rocky film was.
Let's not talk about it yet until we get to it.
But I just want to say that I find them somewhat comparable. That there's something similar.
Yeah.
In the feeling of the film, and they're both more slowly paced, and they're definitely more slow burns than the other installments. Because a lot of the other ones, even the first one has a real solid pace to it.
Right.
2 and 6, it does take more of its time. Do we have any follow-up thoughts, closing thoughts on Rocky 2 before we move into one of my favorites?
The fight at the end is filmed beautifully.
Yeah.
It's actually great. Boxing in films is
like you said,
nowhere near what boxing in real life is.
Well, don't you want it to be that, though?
But you do. I mean, the fact that, if you take that many shots to the face in one round, you're not only going to lose, you're going to die. But it looks fantastic in the movies. I mean, the way it's shot and the way it's done, it's beautifully done. Just to talk about the way it's shot. But, yeah, boxing in films, I mean, this is the perfect thing. When he wins at the end, I mean, did you feel any better?
He did it.
Sober. Yeah, no. He's screaming Adrian, that whole thing.
No, I liked it. I do agree that the first 40 minutes of the film feels slow, and then it picks up after that.
Right.
But my favorite...
It's not so much slow, it's just I don't care.
Yeah.
Which makes it slow.
But it does have one of my favorite moments of all time. What I like is throughout this entire movie, like Apollo is basically trying to go with Rocky into getting him to fight him again because he feels like he didn't beat him. And his trainer, he's talking to his trainer, and he goes, "We don't need to fight him anymore. We don't need him." And he's being very persistent about it, and he says, "I'm going to tell you something why we don't need to fight him." He says, "I saw you beat this man like I've never seen you beat no man before." And the man kept coming. And I was like, that's such a good moment and a great line, and it kind of sums up the character right there, that he'll take, he can take a beating and go. So, I mean, is it as good as the original? No, I mean, it's not. I mean, the original Rocky, no, but is it a good follow-up? I think it's good. The beginning, but after the last hour of that movie, it's very Rocky.
It is night and day between Paradise Alley, which he directed prior. I mean, for Stallone to move that much up as a director is a real feat and accomplishment, and an underdog story in and of itself. And I would say that one of the other things that this series has to be complimented for is that when you look at prior boxing films to Rocky, it's very staged. The fights are very tightly framed.
There's not a whole lot before it either, but you're right.
It's sort of like reinvented it. The fight choreography got reinvented. Another interesting little tidbit about Rocky 2 is after its success, I mean, Raging Bull would not exist if it wasn't for Rocky 2. Because Irwin Winkler was the producer on both films. The studio wanted Rocky 2, he wanted Raging Bull, so he made a compromise. I will make Rocky 2, I will produce Rocky 2 if you allow us to produce Raging Bull. So without Rocky 2, you have no Raging Bull. I want to mess with the order of the show a little bit. Matt in control room, could we go to our Nerd News Girl and we'll head out to a commercial. But just something real quick on the Nerd News Girl. This was shot at the Macabre Fair Film Festival with a lot of lovely people that attended, and you're going to see Heather Drew right here, along with a surprise cameo from a horror icon, giving you Rocky trivia.
Hi guys, I am Heather Drew, and here are some fun facts on Rocky. Opponent 1, opponent 2, and clash! Did you know, when shooting the famous jog through the Philadelphia streets, Sylvester Stallone pulled a tendon in his leg, and guess how he got to the hospital? In a wheelbarrow. Crowd goes wild. Crowd goes wild. In one version of the screenplay, there's a flashback scene that shows Rocky first meeting Nicky, and we learn his first name. Guess what it was? Robert.
Robert Balboa.
I had the time. In total, 1,200 people auditioned for the role of Clubber Lang.
I just gotta say that you got the coolest cue card person ever.
He's pretty awesome. I mean, vroom, 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 vroom.
Groovy.
When shooting the film, Sylvester Stallone decided that it was a good idea for the fight scenes that Dolph Lundgren should really hit him. Guess what? He ended up in intensive care for 8 days. Stupid idiot.
I believe he goes by the name of Dolph Lundgren.
Well, I'm not very articulate. Sylvester Stallone was asked to rate this movie 1 out of 10. Guess what he gave this? A 0. It's not that bad. The paintings made by Paulie in the film were actually done by Burt Young, who is an avid painter himself. Pretty artistic. And that is this week's Nerdgasm trivia. Try to get a better one. Come on, put him up, put him up!
Hey, Barlow, yeah, I'm right, Adrian. I'm gonna beat the Barlow today. Right, Adrian! Hey, Mickey, come on, man. You know, I am the law. Wait, sorry, wrong film.
Could you combine Ash and Rocky into one character?
Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up. I'm gonna kill you, deadites, alright? So you better shut up now, alright? Yeah. Go Necronomicon!
In Revio.com.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, this is Gina Cotillo from The Gina Show. Come join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for celebrity interviews, Reality Reel with Billy Charles, funny stories with Brian Kinnear, and much, much more. The Gina Show can be found only on InRadio.com, broadcasting to the world, so come and catch us.
Remember you.
take that role.
Welcome back to Nerdgasm. Tonight we are going to be reviewing Sharknado because our standards have hit that low.
That's
starring
next
Tara
week.
Reid. I gotta watch that movie.
Yeah, she had a great, like, her career just fell, and it was, like, glorious.
It was almost like a Sharknado. All right, and we're back, and we're talking about, or we will be eventually talking about, my disrespect for DVDs. We'll be talking about Rocky III, which is, personally, my favorite of the series, outside of the
sequels.
Of the sequels, yes. Thank you for putting it that way. Just because Mr. T as Clubber Lang is one...
so good.
I would have to use foul language to properly describe it. But as far as just the whole build, I mean, it's got a great pacing. It's exciting. I mean, I love the parts, you know, where they go and they train in the hood. I know it always sounds like that when I say it. What do you call it? When he trains with Apollo and he gets back the Eye of the Tiger. I mean, can you think of any better anthem?
Gotta be the Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
Although that training montage is very, 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 very not right.
It's a little not right. But it's just a fantastic scene. I mean, you know, you have the drama and the heartbreak of Mickey dying, and then you have and there's actually some interesting things in the beginning, sort of an indictment of the boxing community as a whole, the way they just sort of set up Rocky with all these, you know, fake contenders and stuff, and people don't stand a chance just to, you know, hype him up and make money.
He's become the celebrity that
right.
Apollo was in the first
one. And a real contender like Clubber Lang is never given the chance. Until he goes and breaks up a press conference when they're revealing the big Rocky statue in Philadelphia, because in Philadelphia they idolize movie stars and not real people. Anyway, it's a joke, mostly. But this is a fantastic movie. I think Mr. T is just perfect in this role as sort of this just straight out mean, nasty boxer.
Who's a like boxing villain.
Yeah, and I mean, you get a great middle part of the movie where you get to see Apollo and Rocky coming together and training and stuff like this, sort of getting back to his roots and stuff. It's pure entertainment, and I'm saving the best part for last because that's what you do. Hulk Hogan as Thunder Lips.
The ultimate male.
The ultimate male against the ultimate meatball.
Yeah.
I mean,
never put him in the video game though. Always waiting for them to do it. Just
how would you switch from a boxing game to a wrestling game back to a boxing game?
Come on, think about that. Come on, think about that.
It's just a UFC game. This movie's a ton of fun.
But it's also, I think it's
outside
pretty...
of the Mickey thing. But
look at the way that the direction evolved between part 1 and 3. It's like, I think he was very tentative in terms of like the stylistic choices. By 3, you're motoring along.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of style. The montages are great. You know, like you see, I mean, Stallone has got to be such a motivated filmmaker and such a, you know, I mean, driven to the very best at that point in his career before he got really complacent. You know, and I think this film...
I enjoy the hell out of watching it.
But it's also amazing how much they fit into the film itself, because you've got so much happening. You know, like there's more fights, there's more drama, I think, in any of the other installments.
This was the beginning of... This wasn't so much in the first 2 films, but it started to become like montage after montage after montage. Yeah. This was the beginning of it because there's at least 3 in this one. There's the montage of Rocky when he's famous. He's fighting all the competitors and he retains the belt and he retains the belt.
Right.
You know, and then there's the obvious training montage. There's 2 training montages. There's one with Clubber Lang. Actually, those happen back to back, but... No,
there's
it's 2. There's like 4 training. Yeah.
There's the opening montage where it's fights. You have the montage where he's fighting in the gym with all the fans. And Clubber Lang's fighting in, you know, on the street or, you know, in the
he walks out alone. I train alone.
And then you have, once you get past the first fight, you have the Rocky montage where he's not really into it. His heart's not into it. And then you have him get yelled at, and then he comes back, and now it's the real big montage where his heart's all...
Yeah.
Face it, why do we even bother with dialogue?
And it's also the shortest fight. Because he knocks him out and he wins in like the 5th round.
Right.
As opposed to usually all his fights go to the final round.
That's true.
But I do love it when he gets all mad and he's like, it's so bad, it's so bad.
I gotta read some of the comments.
He's really like laying it out thick.
And then takes several straight out roundhouses.
Just roundhouse like haymakers.
Yes.
I gotta read a couple of comments in the chat room. Lovely Jessica Rabbit, aka Lovely Jojo, reads Thunderlips. Oh man, that sounds like a retired hooker. And then you've got...
that was my old stage name.
Snooky Dumpling saying, in many ways, Rocky 3 was like Hollywood starting to take over. Which, yeah, I mean, it's definitely slick, I think it's...
It didn't really seem like a takeover. It seemed more like, here.
Yeah.
It seemed like, hand this to them,
Right.
you know?
It's so slick and polished.
It's pure
It's so slick and polished in a lot of different ways, you know, but...
It's very polished.
I think, you know... I definitely place it second in the series. I only own 2 Rocky films, 1 and 3. It's not that I really dislike any installments, even 5. I don't dislike any installments in the series. It's just I think that 1 and 3 are the most
you
powerful.
You don't dislike 5?
Well, borderline.
Okay.
it's borderline dislike,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it's. I guess I like the character so much it's hard to completely divorce
I
him
love the
to
character.
him. So yeah, you know, 3 is a film, probably the one that has the most rewatchability. The one I want to put on the most often.
Yeah, I can watch that anytime it's on.
That's 4 for me.
Yeah, actually, now speaking of 4, I think it's time, you know, we got 30 minutes left in the show. I think it's time to segue into Rocky 4, which is, I think, the James Bond.
I thought we were going to have a video.
No, that was
Rocky, because you look behind it like, okay.
Okay, there's no video. Rocky,
Roll the tape.
Rocky 4 is what I think is the James Bond installment of the series. It feels like it actually gets really stylized.
Oh, and he saves the free world from a nuclear device.
Not too far removed.
Not far off, is the funny thing.
In the technology, with the technology, with the style, you could tell Stallone as a writer was getting lazy. The dialogue wasn't as snappy as it had been. You know, he said. Yeah.
Although I put this moment in this film, I put that up against one of the most heartbreaking moments in Rocky history.
Oh,
when Apollo dies, which is essentially a death montage, by the way. The montage starts there, but
this whole movie is a montage.
I love it. It's like one big music video. That's what it is.
The other movie had like 4 or 5 montages. This is all.
That's why there's no dialogue, Dave, because it's just.
It's like the dialogue at the beginning, like, look, we have robots. And now montages for the rest of the hour.
Yeah, well, because you know his script wasn't long enough. He wanted to get the film done. He wasn't the same filmmaker that he had. It's like, why am I doing this when I could be like trying to score over chicks? You know, he had gone totally Hollywood, and everybody had said that. He admits that. So and as a director, I think he worked as hard as any director there was. But as a writer on this film, he was giving up.
Didn't that open with the 2 fists hitting each other?
Right.
With one was an American flag. And
what do you think? Okay, first of all, Ivan Drago. This guy really knew how to cast.
This guy very good. Like, I'll tell you, if you're gonna do a boxing film, and it's like we have to put him up against somebody that looks scary and unbeatable. Ivan Drago, like, I agree, Cullen Lane was the best villain, but as far as like final bosses go, like.
I love how you look at all of life as a video game.
How can you? I look at that movie like a video game.
It is.
And in Rocky 6, you have an actual video game. Now with this. But with this installment, let me ask you something. They did a change. They did a dramatic change with the music, right? So it went from Bill Conti composing 1, 2, and 3 to something very
It wasn't an original soundtrack this time.
Vincent DiCola. No, it was an original soundtrack, but it was Vincent DiCola, which is a completely different approach to the music. Part of the reason why it feels, more like it feels, like a different kind of movie. And on some level, like all of these musical scores are, reused by, for a lot of different commercials. It's a great score, but I wonder if you think it would have been better if they had kept the Conte original. Stallone says in retrospect he wished he kept Bill Conte. It was a pricing thing. He wanted to save some money by going with a new guy. The new guy came up with these, these cues that were really memorable, but I have to say that it might have felt more like something that was part of the series had he stayed with Conte.
The soundtrack is just amazing in this movie. Hearts on Fire. There's no, come on.
Well, I'm talking about the stuff that the original
I'm not
score.
disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, it's just, and it's all, and I agree. And I think maybe if he did keep Bill Conti, it would have been different. Probably would have been a little better. But as far as popcorn movies go, I don't think you can do better than Rocky.
Well, at the time, I think now it hasn't aged so well. What do you think, Tim?
I haven't seen number 4 in a while.
I watched it on last one.
Mostly it's so sappy at times that it just...
It's very sappy.
It's funny, it's amusing. My brother loves this movie. It's his. Is this for me?
Who are these batteries for? We'll be really subtle about it because nobody in the audience know that the microphone, Joe's microphone is dying.
Get your mic going, Joe.
So Rocky IV, but the thing is, like, these visuals in the film, Stallone really can tell a story visually.
He's running up a mountain.
Yeah, the story, like when I'm talking about the use of slow motion, the fog, you know, like he does some interesting things. Think about like the introduction of Ivan Drago to the audience in Las Vegas. You know, with I mean that's a really well directed scene. Stallone, like if he was given the opportunity, I'm sure could do like a hell of a job. And another thing that Stallone as a director is really good at is I think he's good with performances. Think about his after Apollo dies, he's left with that supporting character to become his trainer, and that actor has legitimately good moments. Yeah, that actor has like legitimately good moments that, you know, Stallone as a director had the instinct to be able to cull, you know, those performances out of these guys. Because I think he was more of a boxer, that guy, than an actor.
What, the guy who played Apollo's trainer?
Right. You know.
I think it was. I mean, story-wise, I understand why they went that route. I do, and I like. Plus, I think they underplayed him in a good way, particularly because it's like you can never, you know, do better than, you know, Burgess Meredith's Mickey.
And so they took a guy who was a complete different. Coming from a complete different direction, a complete different relationship.
Yeah.
And so when they brought him back in Rocky Balboa, I thought that was
he had a great moment in that one.
Yeah, when he's...
We're going to build some hood and muscle.
Yeah. He's explaining
that was probably my favorite montage out of the whole series, actually, with those.
The most believable part of that movie, his training. Then the fight happened, and all believability out the window.
Here's something I always felt about Rocky IV, and I think it would have really worked, and I want to move on to Rocky V, all our favorites.
Yes!
And in Rocky IV, there's something that made no sense. Well, there's a lot of things that make no sense to me, but in Rocky IV, there's a scene where Ivan Drago turns on the audience because the audience is chanting Rocky. We're not at 4 or 5 yet. Okay, so the audience turns to Rocky. They're chanting Rocky, and Ivan Drago gets pissed off, and he turns to the crowd saying basically the equivalent of "F you" in Russian. I think it would have made so much more. You know, that's Stallone's vanity, thinking, well, they're going to root for me because like I'm such an underdog and I'm fighting. I think what would have made sense is if
that didn't actually happen in real life.
No, what would have made the most sense is if Ivan Drago, in the middle of losing, has that big argument with his trainer, and then flips off the audience, and then the audience, out of spite, turns on Ivan Drago and starts rooting for Rocky.
Why would he flip off the audience?
Because
let me take that back. How would he flip off the audience?
The same way they did in the movie, but I'm just saying that
not literally flip them off. He's wearing boxing.
If he yells at the audience saying, "I fight for me, not for you," at a point before they turn on him, then I think it would have made sense. It would have made sense. It wouldn't have seemed so cheesy. So that's just my take on it. Now, Rocky V, all our favorites.
The series dies.
What are we talking about?
Rocky V.
Okay.
So Peppercorn, I want you to take it away.
This movie is absolutely abysmal.
All right, I'm ready for Rocky V.
It's depressing. The acting is terrible. The script is awful.
What are you talking about?
It's so bad.
It's
the whole
like
premise.
It's dumb. It's just bad. I can't. It just missed the mark. Like
Paulie loses all their money. So it's an attempt by an artist to go back to his roots. Sort of acceptable in a way, but at the same time, he's still so caught up in the Hollywood machine that he's, you know, it's trying to manufacture feelings where there are none, and it's just everyone in the cast and crew of this would look tired and wasn't down.
It just seemed very lazy.
It was.
But it's interesting. They bring back Avildsen. They sent it back to the streets. The whole intention was to bring it back to the feeling of the original film.
Right. Yeah, but the way that they went about it, and I understand wanting to do it. It felt forced. The whole like. Tommy Gunn's a jerk. I hate that character. He's so stupid. Like,
and you know, I feel bad that he's deceased, but he's just not an actor.
Yeah, I'm not talking. It's just
the character.
His character's stupid. And what was the
promoter is the worst.
The promoter's the worst.
The Don King.
The Don King character.
I'm gonna be honest. When I saw this film for the first time, I was a kid, and I couldn't understand why people disliked it. And I loved it as a kid.
That's because then you grew up and you're like, oh God, why would I ever? You ever done that? You watch a movie as a kid and you're like, and years later you're like, this movie was great. And you're like, oh my God, this is terrible.
But no, it went from like in my
all this Italian shit.
Like an 8 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. I'm going to give that all. I don't think this film is any less than a 5 out of 10. I don't hate it. There are things that I enjoy about it. It's just like a Star Wars: A Phantom Menace. When a film that is simply mediocre follows a film that is so classic, it just feels even that much worse in comparison. It just feels that much worse as a result.
It's like Rocky IV is not the best film in the world, but at least you can watch that and be entertained. Like it's fun to watch. Yeah. There's nothing entertaining about Rocky V.
Rocky V is painful to watch.
It's sad and not in a good way.
You don't like the montages?
Fun to make fun of.
No, let me point something out to you that
poor montages all around.
Let me point something out to you that I found very interesting. In watching some
show was brought to you by montages.
In watching a lot of the special features related to Rocky V, I heard different people. I heard different people. No, it was actually I found it online.
Okay.
I heard different people involved with the film saying that they felt the reason that the film flopped was because Rocky didn't have his final fight in the ring. I don't think that's it. No, it's like they're blaming that, and they're blaming. There was like another simple thing that Rocky V didn't have that the others did, and they're saying that that's the reason. But it really goes beyond that. I mean, like the performance of Rocky, even though he has a couple of good moments, it almost becomes like a Saturday Night Live impression of what he had been playing.
Well, I think he was trying to play up the head injury also.
Yeah, that he came off. He came off retarded, is what it was.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't use that word.
I know you don't use that word, but that's how it came over. That's how it came across.
He came off incredibly brain damaged, but the problem is, playing a character who has brain damage is fine if you do it the correct way. This is done like, he's doing a bad impression.
Here you go, full retard.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
You guys didn't get the Tropic Thunder reference?
I totally got it.
What are you doing?
I said he went full retard in that film.
So you can't commit to the bit, though, Bryce. You got to commit to the bit.
I'm mostly commit to the bit. Sorry, dude. So yeah, it's a whole mix of different mix of things. So do we have time? I think we have time to.
Why do we have a close-up on Joe?
Why not?
Favoritism.
I'm trying to sell myself to Schnookums. He says I have a -6 cup, though. I guess that's in men's size.
I don't know what that means. What is a -6? Is that like you talking chest? What are you talking about?
What else? What else is a cup size?
Your cup with it.
No, I'm just appeasing to him. I think he's very intelligent, actually.
Okay. I don't know what you did.
Well, he is typing. That's something.
Hey.
No, it's like he hates me so much he loves me. I think I'm gonna go with that.
So your dad's on here, huh?
Huh?
What?
My dad's dead.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
That almost got brutal. So yeah, I think let me ask you guys something. We've all played games of many different systems.
What about Rocky Balboa? We're gonna go into something else.
Before we go into Rocky Balboa, I want to know what was your favorite Rocky video game to play?
The only one I've played was the one from the Atari.
The Atari one.
Yeah, where it's quite literally it's just a circle with 2 arms, and then you just go like the most impossible game to win because you have to shift and then you can't block. And
I played that game.
Clearly did not watch any boxing before they designed.
Yeah, but you couldn't boxing.
Although it's still better than the ET game.
Oh my God!
Worst game ever made.
ET game literally was on the list of worst game, of all time.
Doesn't even make sense.
We should do a show on the ET game.
Ooh.
So what about?
Or we could just torture someone.
Or torture Joe.
But yeah, no, it wasn't a good game.
No, I got Star Wars references now.
So now, what is your favorite Rocky video game?
You see, I played the old ones. I remember playing the Sega. It wasn't even Sega Genesis. What was it?
Sega Command System?
No, not the Command System. They made a Sega Command System. It was but I can't remember which. It was like pre-Sega Genesis or something like that. Master System. It was the Sega Master System. So and I remember it was a Rocky, but it only went up to Ivan Drago or only went up to Clubber Lang.
So it's a game that I played. It was for the Sega Genesis.
Something like that. So you only played.
Whatever that
was. It was for the Sega Master System. It was, and it was.
I know. Let's just name all the different Sega systems.
Sega Genesis, Sega 3, Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah. Let me reenact what it was like to play that game, because Joe played the same game that I did, and you played the 4. Let me reenact what it was like to play that game. Two buttons on the...
There's 3. You only used 2. No, not the battery.
So that's it. That's our entire childhood playing this game. Just pressing the 2 damn buttons over go as fast as you can, hopefully being able to beat Clever Lang. And then Ivan Dragon. So...
The weirdest part is when you have to fight Mickey.
You should go back in time and find him back in his prime. We barely mentioned Burgess Meredith in this entire show.
I was afraid I'd just start talking about the Penguin, which is a fair thing.
Dreamcast is a good system. So I'll let you.
How do we get the Dreamcast?
I'll let you head out to commercial. When we come back, we've got 2 things left to discuss. We've got
Dreamcast.
Rocky, the final installment of the Rocky series, and then we're going to get into Joe's very exclusive review. This guy right here has a very exclusive review of the upcoming Broadway play.
It's already out.
Well, it wasn't.
Oh no, wait, no, it's not. It starts out.
So you got to tune in. You got an advanced review of this, exclusive here in Nerdgasm.
Well, Friday it comes out.
In Ravio.com.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Fantasy Baseball Code Red, the all-new weekly show bringing you the latest news, insight, and advice on all things fantasy baseball. Join Mike Ferrara and Mike Moosbrugger on In Ravio every Saturday at 11 for an hour of unscripted and fully interactive live fantasy baseball. Fantasy Baseball Code Red, season premiere March 22nd at 11 on InRavio.com. In Ravio, this isn't TV, this isn't radio, this is InRavio.com.
Hey, this is your good buddies Bruce and Disco from the Glory Days Show, which can be seen every Sunday morning starting at 10 a.m. here in the East.
We have sports highlights, movie reviews, and celebrity interviews.
We have out-of-town correspondents, Timmy the Trotter giving us horse racing tips, and at the end of every show, Mr. B does a live song.
The Glory Days Show, found only on InRavio.com, broadcasting to the world. Catch us.
What's up? Welcome back to Nerdgasm.
Okay.
Good intro.
So I said during the commercial break, why don't we just have you bring us back, Joe? And he says, okay. And that's how he brought us back. I see.
That was a recap. That just happened.
Put me on the spot.
I put him on the spot last week. Like, you know,
the best stuff happens.
We were teasing each other, and I'm like, "You host the show," and then he came back, and he's like, "Okay," and he was ready to go. So, Rocky Balboa was a film that was in development hell for a long time, and I think that development hell really did help the film itself because it gave Stallone time to think about how to make this film as good as it can be. And whereas Rocky V was an attempt to go back to the roots, this really did go back to the roots. Granted, I don't think this is as great of a film as the original is, but it does come much closer to recapturing the magic that the original film was. And it's something that I believe in. It espouses a point of view that I do, is like no matter what age you are, you could always pursue your dreams or at least attain some facsimile of it. And it's encouraging. Just as the first film encouraged people, this encouraged people in a little bit of a different way. That even as you hit later years in life, you can still accomplish your dreams. And I don't like Rocky II. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it pays off in the end. Something very interesting that I found about this film, and interesting seems to be the Pee-wee's word of the day because I keep saying it, but is that, remember Pee-wee's Playhouse? It was like one word that they would repeat all the time.
It was delightful.
So, what Stallone did in this film, obviously he had his budget cut, like the first one was low budget, this was low budget. He staged the last fight like a real boxing event. Like in the other films, everything was heightened. The sound effects were heightened. Every time somebody connects with a punch, it's like, it's the sound of a cannon, things like that. And everything was very drama. The lighting was very slick. Whereas in this film, when they do the final fight, they really stage it like it's a real pay-per-view event. And I gotta say, cinematically, I don't like it as much. It was actually too real.
Yeah.
It didn't have that same drama. It's not quite the same effect that the other films did. It was a strong film. I love that they brought back Marie, who is not the actual actress from the first film. This is a bit of trivia that a lot of people don't know. Marie, the character from the original film, came back in Rocky V for a cutscene. And she turned out to be a drug addict because Rocky warned her, you got to stay away from guys like that. You don't know what's going to happen. And then 5, he shows that she's become like an addict and living on the streets. I'm sure he's glad he cut that out because that opened up the door of her coming back as the bartender in Rocky VI. One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when she's bartending and the guys down the corner are giving him a hard time, saying, buy us a drink. It is like a classic scene in the tradition.
Yeah.
Remember when they're like the guys in the bar giving him a hard time? It's such an example of why the film works so well. I don't know what happened to Burt Young's voice in the film, but it got really kind of distracting.
He's old as hell, man.
Well, certainly.
I actually didn't know he was alive when this movie came out. I didn't know he was still alive. I didn't know Burt Young was still alive.
Yeah, well,
really nothing to say.
You have nothing to say about Rocky VI? About Rocky Balboa?
It was a fine film.
Really? Well, what do you guys rate it?
I liked the movie a lot.
No, I liked the movie.
I liked it a lot. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
What do you guys...
I liked it. I watched it. I liked it. It was fine.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I liked the final fight. I thought it was dynamic. I liked the characters. This is what Rocky V should have been.
I thought the final... Yeah.
It's almost like... This is almost like the apology piece for Rocky V.
You know what? Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, it just made more sense. And I think it made more sense because, one, where Stallone's career itself was at the time of making that, and the way...
Down and out.
Yeah. And I think it all sort of felt like it worked together. And even, the fight, the way he filmed the fight at the end fit this movie. I think it wouldn't have worked if he had gone back to the over-stylized, over-the-top fights that he'd used in the other ones. It would have just... Because The man's 60 years old. He's fighting someone who's half his age.
And it was
literally.
It was good that the boxer didn't tone up. He let himself, because he's not in this Ivan Drago kind of shape.
Yeah.
He's more of like a realistic shape when he takes on the film. But actually, one of the things I was disappointed in was the boxer that he's fighting. Even though he did a very good job, as a non-actor, he did a great job as a non-actor. But he just wasn't.
He didn't have much to do though. It wasn't in the film a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it was probably smart. I thought he was a good character. And, but yeah, they didn't put him in the film a whole lot probably because he wasn't experienced with it. But the stuff that he was in, also he never spoke a whole lot in a lot of the scenes that weren't.
No, like they put people around him. Like a lot more of it.
But it worked.
But that's one of the shortcomings of the film.
I like the fact that Rocky had the restaurant with all the artwork in the background that I recognized from that was neat.
And Sylvester Stallone really knows his boxing history because he knows what happened to all these boxers. But quickly speaking, I think that the shortcoming of the film was that the antagonist in that film, I just didn't think it was not that interesting. And that's always been like sort of a staple of the film is that you have really interesting dynamic villains or counterpoints. And I think if that had been in place and the pacing been a little stronger, you would have had a film that was even more comparable to the original.
Yeah. I mean, it felt more like when you got to the end, he was fighting more of himself and his age than he was the opponent just wasn't.
I love the metaphor of the old dog. He's got when he goes to the shelter to pick up a dog, he sees himself in that dog. I loved it, and that's another great bit of writing. Stallone's got a great writing.
You want to get an audience, get a dog.
Now, this is the part of the show I'm going to throw it all over to Joe, because Joe, if we could throw up the picture of Rocky the musical. Is it produced by Stallone?
Yeah.
I want to hear your whole experience. I want to hear your whole experience about,
I went to see this movie with my friend Jay. It was his birthday. He's a massive Rocky fan, and I couldn't think of a better person to go with. So we went to the theater. It's actually in the theater that Mamma Mia was in for the longest time.
Thanks.
And they just kicked it out. But we saw a preview of it, and I went into this. I'm like, this probably is going to suck. It's probably not going to be that good. But I actually was surprised, and it's not very musically. It's not a big musical. It's not. It's like the most underplayed musical ever, and I think that's what makes it work about the show so much is that it's not like this big show-stopping. It's really more about the story. They don't try to do big, flashy. The set's amazing, and a lot of stuff is moving the whole time. And they basically they do take a couple liberties with the script, but I think you have to. But like the way that they do the montages on stage, and I thought the same thing, but it works. It looks really cool. Like I thought it looked cool.
I often go to the theater thinking more montages are needed.
Don't you though? I was waiting for somebody else to think that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't get enough of that.
But I liked it. I thought it was a guy who played Rocky. It didn't feel like he was doing a Sylvester Stallone impersonation. It felt like he was playing Rocky. The performances were solid. The girl who played Adrian was really good. The guy who played Apollo Creed was great. And nothing reminded me of, that's just like Sylvester Stallone, or that's just like Carl Weathers, because... And that's what I was expecting. I have to be honest. I was expecting to see that. I was expecting to see, how could you not? But I really think it's attributed to the actors in it. They gave solid performances. And even the guy who played Mickey, he made it was good. And they didn't try to do the same thing Burgess Meredith did, because you can't do that. You can't recreate that character, so they changed it.
You got to make it your own. I mean, if you're going to do a good job, you have to make it your own.
And that's what they did, and I think that's one of the things I liked about the most is all these actors on stage did. They made it their own. They didn't try to do the same thing that was done, over 30 years ago. And it worked. And what I really liked about it was it doesn't end with they're not singing and fighting. They do a whole boxing match at the end, and it's really cool because on my tickets it said ringside seat. I'm like, do we get to sit on stage? No, what happens is they actually lower the boxing ring. They empty out the first 12 rows, and they lower the boxing ring into the middle of the crowd. And they come down, and they have the fight right there. And they integrate slow motion into the fighting, and they have the cards and everything like that, and it's amazing. I was sitting ringside.
Like the actors go like that?
I've been in several shows, and Tim's been there too. We have to integrate slow motion into fighting, and the way that they did it in this was amazing how they did it, because it was really cool, and I got to sit ringside at a Rocky Balboa fight. Don't ever know I was ever going to say that again. That's pretty cool. And they brought a ring down. They sat ringside, and it moved. It was awesome. And they didn't. What I liked about it is they didn't end with a big number. You know, the only time there was a big number and it lent itself to the character was when Apollo Creed was trying to find someone to fight, and he comes across Rocky. They made that a big number, but it lent itself to the character. He was this big, flashy guy. So why, if you're going to do musical, why wouldn't you have the one big show-stopping number? Every other song is very kind of, it's not big. It's just one person on stage singing, and it sounds like they're singing to themselves. So it doesn't. The reason why I hate musicals is because it takes a lot for me to believe that someone is just going to break out the song in the middle of 42nd Street. I don't care how many people say it. You know, I know you do. But
it's just a great place.
You know, you've got to.
Depends on how much you've had to drink that night.
Basically. Well, no, even that doesn't sound nearly as good rehearsed. But I just have a hard time believing that. But I actually believed the songs, and I believed it, you know, and it was a pretty good. I don't think it's like, oh, it's the best thing I've seen in 20 years, but I enjoyed it, and I thought for a Rocky musical, I was pleasantly surprised.
Does it only take on the storyline of the first film?
Yes, it's only the first movie.
Is it possible that we will find Rocky?
I think you could do Rocky 4 as a musical easily.
That would be. That would be something. That would be my return to Broadway.
It'd be like seeing Rock of Ages, only with a boxing match.
Rocky of Ages.
I will gouge my eyes out.
Rocky of Ages. Wow. So guys, you are now. You guys.
Thank you for running with that one.
You are doing a play. Well, I'm going to close things out by you plugging this play that you're performing.
Yes.
Tell us about it. Tell us in the audience.
Well, it's a play. It's actually based on the film Rocky by Sylvester Stallone. No, it's the play is called Lovers and Laborers, tediously brief, tragically merry reimagining of William Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Our next performance is multiples. Is April 4th, 5th, and 6th at Islip Town Hall in Islip, right there on Main Street. I play the part of Bottom, who's if you're familiar with Midsummer Night's Dream, he's the
Come on.
Matt likes that one. What do you call it? He's the what do you call it? He's the guy who gets turned into a donkey. Joe plays. Who do you play in this one? Joe plays Puck.
And I play Snug mostly. Puck I play for like 2 seconds.
He does, but you're Snug and Puck. Read into that one as you will. Who's one of the fairies and stuff. It's a fantastic show. It's about it's a little less than an hour and a half. It's fun for the whole family and stuff. We sort of mess around with the works of Shakespeare and make it our sort of own thing. It has stage combat in it. It's got a lot of humor in it. Some great performance pieces. It's a really artistic sort of fun thing. So yeah. So anyone out there who's on Long Island and wants to come down, come and see us.
So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Timmy. Thank you, lovely Jojo, and everybody who's watching. Snicky Dumplings, you were a little mean to Joe. Joe's the best. He's great. Thank you for my co-hosts, Peppercorn Montgomery, Joe Winchell. And hopefully you'll tune in next time. We are going to be reviewing Thor and Incredible Hulk and talk about some of the series affiliated with them. You're in for a really good episode. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.
Fantasy Baseball Code Red, the all-new weekly show bringing you the latest news, insight, and advice on all things fantasy baseball. Join Mike Ferrara and Mike Moosbrugger on In Radio every Saturday at 11 for an hour of unscripted and fully interactive live fantasy baseball. Fantasy Baseball Code Red, season premiere March 22nd at 11 on InRavio.com. In Radio, this isn't TV, this isn't radio, this is InRavio.com. InRavio.com.
Revio.com.
Welcome to Nerdgasm. Now, today we're going to take on a subject that's not traditionally affiliated with nerds, because it's a sports film. And as a nerd growing up, I couldn't play sports, but I sure as hell like these movies. So, to my right, we have the very Irish-looking Joe Winchell. Doesn't mean that you don't. Wait a second. You see, now, ladies and gentlemen, he has a green four-leaf clover on his sleeve, but because we're up against green screen, you can't see it. And to my left is the always hatted Peppercorn Montgomery. You have to tune in some nights just to see what hat he's wearing. So we also
need a reason to tune in.
Absolutely. On tonight's show, he has amassed a list of 3 headlines, and I don't know what they're going to be. So before we get into our reviews, we're going to deal with the headlines, and we also have a special guest, James Christopher, who's a filmmaker, and I believe he's calling in right now, and we're going to discuss something related to tonight's movies, which is being an underdog. So, is James Christopher on our Skype as of right now?
How you guys doing?
Hey, welcome to the show,
James. So,
thanks for having me.
You and I are massive fans of movies in general and certain franchises, this being one of them.
Right.
So I've got to hear your bullet point reviews of the whole Rocky series.
Rocky series is, of course, for the most part, a great franchise. It's a very cool franchise where you can actually track American history from, say, the late 70s through, the last one, and the mood of America is captured. I don't really acknowledge Rocky V as part of the franchise, but Rocky 1 and 2 are great films. Rocky 3 has Mr. T asking his wife to come over to his apartment so she can see her real man. I mean, what's not to love about that? And, of course, who doesn't want to beat the Russians? I mean, we could remake Rocky 4 right now, call it 4.5, and send it to Putin, and then there we go.
Sounds good. And so, you and I, we know each other from the film festival circuit. My introduction to you was when we met down in Texas. Now, you're a Texas filmmaker. You're actually from the Austin area, and we were down at the horrific film festival. And my introduction.